Welcome back into the Paul Finebaum Show. Peter Burns sitting in for Paul Finebaum, and I love the fact that when we start getting past football season, college hoops is right here, and there was no better exciting finish maybe to all of the hoop season than what happened in a sold-out Colonial Life Arena coming up on Wednesday. And right now, the star of it, Jermaine Couisnard, joining us. And Jermaine, when you look at it, I got to know, it was a bank shot in front of a packed crowd, a game winner. Did you call bank?
Nah.
You didn't need to, right?
Nah, to be honest, I thought it was an air ball. I thought I shot it too hard. But if you listen to the video, it hit the glass pretty hard.
Hey, all I know is that it went in, man, and that's the most important thing. You see the crowd start going crazy, fans going crazy, but after quickly ties that ball game up, take me through the huddle and what Frank Martin was said and why you were the dude.
To be honest, he told us if I can't get open, just try to get to the outlet spot to make a play. And if not, he told Keyshawn to come up and screen for me. And if his man get above him, to slip out of it and I throw the ball to him and he go make a play. But it didn't go like that, I guess. I got it, and then my man gave me enough room to give me a couple dribbles. And I just took a dribble and I just pulled up. And I seen it go off the glass.
And you call game, my man. I mean, that's the crazy part about it. I don't know how anybody wasn't just on you, white on rice, because you're sitting there, you got 23 points going into that. Did you feel it into that night? What was special about it?
Just my teammates being confident in me. Just keep on letting me being aggressive, keep letting me being aggressive. So that made me just feel like I'm gonna have a great day today.
Obviously, it was a great day, but even before that, because you got an opportunity for your first career start, what did Frank Martin and the rest of the team say to you even before the game that said, hey, you were going to be the guy starting?
They knew that I've been practicing well, just being a leader on the court and off the court, just helping my teammates, giving them confidence when they feeling down about themselves. So he's just telling me just go out and play my game and just run the team.
What's up, y'all? Welcome into another hour of the Paul Finebaum Show. Peter Burns back in the big host chair with you. As always, you can hit me up on Twitter at Peter Burns ESPN. Has been a busy day. LSU players and their team are en route to visit the White House. They got into a bus crash. One of those buses, it's okay and nothing is serious, and it was some of the personnel on that staff. We'll keep you updated on that. We'll talk a lot more about your phone calls on SEC football. But right now, Coach Nate Oates is joining us right now here, Alabama Crimson Tide. And, Coach, it was a whooping yesterday, 83-64. The hard hats were on. Before we even get to the game, what was the environment like in Coleman as you were stepping into the arena?
Yeah, it was big time. That was the first sellout since I've been here. So it was nice. It was good to see the students from Florida, Sealy, and they got loud. We needed them to get loud. They got loud for us when we needed it.
And when you said they needed it, you were talking about how this team needed kind of that punch-through win. And everyone needs that. In fact, we had Jim in Tuscaloosa, who is a renowned caller here on the Paul Finebaum Show. He goes, you know what, I'm sitting up and I'm paying attention to Alabama basketball now because of the style and because of that win. What did that win do for your program?
No, I think it proved that, we can actually beat some of the better teams. I mean, they were fourth in the country. We had hung with Kentucky for most of the game. We had been up big on Florida. We're up 9 at Penn State, and we just couldn't get the win. So we finally got the win. Now the next step is we got to get some, we got to rattle off some wins, period, and then we got to get a big road win is where I think we need to go from here.
Coach Nate Oates joining us here on the Paul Finebaum Show with Peter Burns. Coach, how much about coaching kids is about belief? Because there's no doubt that, Cairo Lewis Jr., of course, is a very talented player. Alex Reese, Jones, you can go through the Petty. All of these guys have the talent or else they wouldn't be playing here in the SEC. But how do they believe that they're that good?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think confidence is a huge thing with kids. So you got to instill them. They got to believe that the system's going to work. They got to know that the coach believes in them. And I mean, we talk to them all the time about your reps are going to really build your confidence up, get up, put shots up. So I think our guys, I told them before the game, I think we've put the work in. We've done enough over the last 9 months that we deserve to win this. Now we just got to go out and play hard in them for 40 minutes. So I think our kids believed it, and they did it, and now they got more confidence going into the next games.
I know that Greg Byrne was full of confidence when he hired you to come down and take over this program. Now, it just means more, and you're starting to understand what this Alabama-Auburn rivalry is. I mean, going even back to media days when you had Anthony McLemore of Auburn saying, I can't wait to see the look of disappointment in the eyes for the Alabama fans when we come in there and win. Now, it was kind of a playful shot, but how much of that kind of just resonated with your players leading into that game?
Oh, yeah. They knew what he said. And, I mean, I agree. Like, it's a rivalry. He knew it. I don't think there was any intention in it, but it definitely added a little bit to the rivalry, which is great. I liked it. So I'm sure the game at their place will be a heated, intense game, and we're going to have to bring everything we got there. So it's good. I mean, it's, you hear a lot about the rivalry until you actually get in it and play in it for the first time. It's, it's all hearsay. But man, that was an intense game last night. I love it. I told our guys that's why we put all the time in that we do to play big games like that.
And you should love it. You're the first time an Alabama head basketball coach has beaten Auburn in their first opportunity to do so. So that's a feather in your cap. And talking about caps, this hard hat mentality. We saw a lot of hard hats in the stadium in that game. What is the story behind the hard hat, and why is it important to Alabama basketball going forward?
Yeah, so we started doing it at Buffalo. It honestly came from one of my assistants was Lindsey Hunter that played for the Pistons back when they were kind of gritty and winning the world. They won the NBA championship based on kind of the whole hard hat. And he made a comment after one of the games. He told the team, like, we're not blue collar enough around here. And it kind of got my mind going. And I came in the next day. I don't even think the players knew what blue collar was. So I kind of explained what blue collar is, and then that kind of led from one thing to the next. And we actually got a real hard hat from a construction site in Buffalo and put the Buffalo Bull on it and started a point system. And we kind of grade players out on, we call them blue collar points, just kind of the tough, nitty gritty deflections, charges, floor dives, rebounds, all types of stuff like that. And we try to grade out effort is really what we do. Like, put your hard hat on, come to work, and put the work in. So we've been giving it, this is the third or fourth year now we've been doing it, where we give a hard hat out at the end of the game. They put it on, whoever's got the most blue-collar points. So Herb Jones won it for us last night. He took a few charges, had a bunch of deflections, led us in rebounding. So just a way to honor the guy that maybe doesn't score the most points in every game, but impacts winning just as much.
And you look at it then, Herb Jones, 14 and 12 yesterday, was put up some monster numbers as well, too. And I was talking to Jeff Puritan, your buddy over there, earlier this year, and I said, hey, what's going on? How's this team feeling? And he says, hey, listen, once we get 100% healthy, this team's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Do you feel that this team is 100% healthy and that this is just a catalyst to make a run towards an SEC title?
Yeah, we're a lot closer to it than we were we were really banged up a month and a half ago or so. So, Herb's probably 90%, where he was probably playing about 50% with his elbow earlier. Beadle's still got something going on, but even he looks better, and he gave us some big minutes in the second half. And then Alex Reese has got to have surgery at the end of the year, but he's a fighter. He's a tough kid. He's going to war through. Everybody else is pretty healthy. So we're about as healthy as we're going to get, I think, and we're certainly playing a lot better. I think big problem was those guys weren't able to practice at all. We were just getting them to games. Now they can practice, and our chemistry's getting a lot better. It's hard to get better when you don't practice. So now that we're got everybody kind of playing well together, chemistry's good, practicing together, I think we can start to make a little bit of a run here.
All right, and that run would be huge for this program, and that's the reason why you were hired. Last question for you. I asked this, and I put it on Twitter, at Peter Burns ESPN. Every year I come up with my Vegas rankings for all the coaches in college football, 1 through 14 here in this conference. Where should I put you when I start doing the college basketball coaches here in this conference? 1 through 14 is the guy I want to hang out with on a Vegas trip. Are you at the top of the list? Are you at the bottom of the list? Where are you at?
I guess it depends on what you want to do in Vegas. But my guess is if it's Vegas, I'm going to be closer to 14 than 1. I'm not into too much of that stuff in Vegas. So I probably got a good guess of who maybe you would want to hang out with a little bit more than me if it's Vegas. But I mean, if you want to go watch some games on TV and hang out. I mean, maybe we can play a little blackjack or something, but I'm not getting into too much other than that.
No, that's fine with me. Now I'm old. Like a 22-year-old Peter Burns would probably it would have been a whole lot different than 40-year-old Peter Burns. So as long as I heard, I just don't challenge you to a game of pool, and I'll be in pretty good shape. Nate Oates joining us.
If we could find a pool hall there, we could hang out all night. We'd shoot pool all night there.
I tell you what, if there is one talent that I want my head coach to be able to do is play pool. Believe it or not, because if you can play pool, you're always looking at the angles. And Nate Oates, you did it. You found the angle against the Auburn Tigers, gave them their first loss of the year last year. Congratulations on that win, and let's see it go forward, all right?
All right, thanks, Peter. Next time we're together, we'll get a pool. We'll put some money on a pool game. You can come over and play in our player lounge with us.
I'm all in as long as I can have Finebaum's winnings. I'll use his paycheck to pay off my debts. Thanks.
Well, you're doing his job for him, so you may as well.
I'm in for that. Thanks, Coach. Nate Oates joining us. A huge win again, and I think that's interesting because we always look for this gap, right? And I do it as a just SEC fan myself, but as a host of how do you kind of go from a national championship game, college football season to basketball. When you have South Carolina with a huge upset in Columbia last night against Kentucky, that's one reason why. And also Alabama giving Auburn their first loss of the season. I thought that was fantastic as well, too, just as far as the parity level here in this conference. And honestly, for Bruce Pearl, I think he'll look at that and be disappointed, but it's also one less thing that his team is going to have to talk about, and it's also a learning process to be like, guess what? You can't just show up and roll the ball out and think you're better than everybody else. So in a weird way, I don't think Bruce Pearl is too hurt that they ended up losing to Alabama because he could teach from it. One quick phone call, Tennessee, we go. Jimmy, you've been patiently waiting to talk a little hoops here. What's up, man?
Peter, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I'm not really a big Orange fan, but it's really hard to watch Barnes, what he's got on the floor. They don't hustle. I don't know what the problem is. They don't have leadership like they had with the 19 season, but it's just really hard to watch, and I don't know the answer. But let me ask you this, Peter. Your question about the quarterback rankings in the SEC,
mm-hmm.
I would put Newman, Trask, and Wilson probably in my top three. And then Jones and whoever Ed goes out and picks. Ed's going to get him a quarterback.
Well, he's already got Miles Brennan, right? So Brennan more than likely will be the kid over at LSU.
You think? Okay. And then you got Bo Nix, and then you got the kid from A&M.
Kellen
Somewhere,
Mond.
Yeah. Garantano has he can't read defenses, so Pruitt's going to have to go some other direction. I don't know if the kid Bailey's going to. As a freshman, I don't think he'll work out, not first year. But I would put Newman, Trask, and Wilson, the kid from Kentucky, as my top three, and then drop Jones in there.
Yeah.
You don't like that?
Well, no. I mean, the issue you got to keep in mind, too, Jimmy, I'm up against the break, but you got to keep in mind that while you want Emory Jones at Florida, Kyle Trask might be the guy that ends up getting it. It might be a little 1-2 punch there. And the only issue I have with Jamie Newman, and he's the Wake Forest transfer that's going into Georgia, is what is Georgia's offense going to look like now that they lose everybody? They're going to have George Pickens, of course, as a wide receiver, but DeAndre Swift's going to be gone. It seems like 4 of their 5 offensive linemen are going to be gone. And can James Coley put together a better offensive plan for Newman that he did have for Jake Fromm? More of those thoughts and more of your phone calls coming up on the Paul Finebaum Show. 855-242-PAUL is the number. You can hit me up on Twitter at Peter Burns, ESPN. And big news, I keep saying big news out of LSU, and then I start thinking, all right, which one of the 17 headlines is it within the last 72 hours? No, it's not winning the national championship game. No, it's not Odell Beckham Jr. acting like an idiot in the locker room or getting an arrest warrant for him giving a butt slap to a police officer. Now the news is not Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, leaving to go to the Carolina Panthers. It is now defensive coordinator Dave Aranda is taking his talents out to Waco, Texas, and going to be taking the place of Matt Rule, who, of course, is now headed to our town here as the Carolina Panthers head coach. And so I'm going to bring in our resident Big 12 expert, Daniel Brams, who knows everything, a big Horned Frog guy. All right, so does this scare you now? I mean, you get rid of Matt Rule, and now Dave Aranda comes in to face your team, or what?
Ain't scared. Come on now. Give me a break. You know those T-shirts in Texas ain't scared, Peter. Come on.
Why would a defensive guy go to the Big 12, though? Honest question.
I don't know. Gary Patterson's a defensive coach. The Big 12 is picking up a little bit of a defensive character now.
You know what? You're right. I saw
Coach
Oklahoma
Grinch
in that game against LSU.
But all joking aside, Kubiak, I know you made that kind of as a snide remark, but think about it. All right, Chris Kleiman is a little bit more. He's not a spread it out air raid guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Matt Rule was more of a defensive minded guy. When they went with Texas Tech is no longer the Mike Leach type mentality. You could argue that Big 12 play has permeated SEC football, and now they're getting back to being a little bit more of a defensive-minded squad. It's actually a perfect deal for Dave Aranda, right? Gets paid,
right,
gets to be a head coach, and now it takes over a roster that's really kind of defensive-minded with what Matt Rule brought.
Plus, my thing is, why are we making fun of the Big 12 when the Pac-12 is right there to be made fun of anyway? But regardless, I want to spin the question back to you, Peter, because what's up with you, as a LSU guy and, with the New Orleans ties that you have?
Yeah.
Do you have some rivalry with maybe the Panthers here? They took Joe Brady now directly, and now because Matt Rule went to the Panthers, now you're losing Dave Aranda. What's
I
up
will
with that?
say this: if you're a Saints fan, it's about when were you born. And I'm 40 years old, so when I was growing up, the Saints were the Aints, and I lived in Baton Rouge, so you're a diehard LSU fan. So to me, I'm now hoping Joe Burrow goes to the Panthers, and yes, I will become a Panthers fan. Can't believe I just said that on TV. Welcome back into the Paul Finebaum Show. Peter Burns in for Mr. Paul Finebaum, and joining us right now to talk about 97 different storylines that have broken in about the last 92 hours is Pat Forty joining us. Pat, I don't even know where we start, and I guess let's go with everything that LSU has lost. It started with Joe Brady going to the Carolina Panthers, and now moments ago it appears to be confirmed that Matt Rule, who's also over at the Panthers, he left Waco, and Dave Aranda is expected to take that job. What do you make of those decisions?
Yeah, I think Baylor kicked the tires on a lot of people to replace Matt Rule. There was, looked like for a while Justin Fuente was the guy they wanted. Billy Napier from Louisiana Lafayette was in the mix. I don't know where Aranda fit on the pecking order, but he's a guy who's obviously been a very respected assistant coach. Now it's always the eternal question: how does he do taking the step over to the big chair? And it adds to the mass exodus in Baton Rouge with Joe Brady leaving and him leaving and 7 underclassmen at least so far. So a lot going on there for sure. Yeah,
you might end up seeing Kayvon Chason and Thaddeus Moss, who will probably put their name in the hat as well. So it might be as many as 9 and a couple of coordinators. So what is the expectation for LSU football? Clearly, maybe the greatest season in college football history. What should be the expectation next year, now knowing everything that you know, Pat?
When you're at a place like LSU, you always want the expectations to remain high. That's why they made the change from Les Miles. He was a good coach. He was a successful coach. He was a championship-winning coach, but he wasn't still doing it at the level they aspired to. He couldn't beat Alabama in the latter years, and so that's why they made that move. So I don't think anybody at LSU is going to sit around and say, well, let's just take a couple of years off from being competitive. So now – It's not going to be easy, but, one of the things we know about Ed Orgeron is that he's a monster recruiter, and so he's got one good class after another good class after another good class, but they may need to call on some of the younger guys earlier with this many underclassmen leaving. There's certainly holes there, and then every bit as important, if not more, is what does he do with these staff positions, especially Brady's position. If he was as responsible as we all think for the transformation of that offense, can they continue that without him? So some big hires for Ed Orgeron to make, or if not hires, then at least staff rearranging to make sure they're still successful strategically.
Pat Forty, Sports Illustrated, joining us right now. You can follow him on Twitter at @bypat40. All right, when you saw this news, the whole Odell Beckham Jr., and it was giving money to players and whatnot, what was your reaction to that?
I thought it was pretty much hilarious. I mean, I said it was like an SEC cartoon come to life because, I think we've all heard a million stories about the $100 handshakes in the SEC. Well, here they are right in front of the TV cameras on the field right after the game. So that was pretty funny. But, there are some repercussions to this. It's not the most serious thing in the world, but there still are NCAA rules saying you can't do that. And I did get a pretty big kick out of LSU immediately coming out the next morning saying, that was fake money. That was fake money. Sure, it was fake money. I mean, they threw that out there so fast, I don't think they thought nobody was going to check on it. Then Joe Burrow comes out and basically drops the dime. Says, yeah, it was real money, and I got some. And so now all of a sudden LSU has to backpedal. And basically I think what it'll come down to is they will have to ask the players, how much did you get? Please return the money or give it to a charity. You may be suspended for a game or a quarter or something next year if you were an underclassman. And then we'll have to disassociate one of our best players from the program because he was an attention-seeking fool.
And Pat, really, that's what it was. And it's unfair to even the players. And I don't care if this was a Clemson player, an Ohio State player, a Southern Cal player, whatever it was, is to think of this young man, no matter who it was, hey, you just won a national championship. One of the legends and the guy that an NFL player, comes up while you're doing a TV interview and says, oh, by the way, hey, put this. What was the kid supposed to do? Just throw it back in Odell's face? I mean, again, I think that they'll fix it, but it's just a bad look as that's one of the headlines coming forward. One of the headlines that you have had, Pat, was talking about your never too early top 25 for 2020. You've got Clemson at number 1. That's no doubt, but where do you go after that?
Yeah, I've got Georgia 2, Ohio State 3, Alabama 4. I think I have Florida at 8, LSU at 10. That was before the Aranda decision. And then I think I had Texas A&M also in the top 25 as well. So, it's going to be another bang-up year in the SEC. I swung pretty hard on Georgia being able to reload in a lot of areas just because I think they have recruited extremely well, and I do think Jamie Newman's a really good quarterback who could have some immediate benefits there. But Alabama loses a bunch, but that's life. That's what they do every year. They were young on defense, so they're bringing back a lot of people there. I think Florida's going to be very good, and then as we know, LSU's looking at a major rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's how much can they rebuild, and for LSU, you're trying to take it to what Alabama has done, which is stay in contention for titles, even though you're having a bunch of success. You had Auburn coming in at 14, and you do eventually end up having Texas A&M over in the top 25. With that being said, how big of a year is that for Jimbo Fisher, year 3, and no longer this murderer's row of Clemson and Georgia on the schedule?
Right. Yeah. Schedule gives them a little bit more of a break. And, year 3 he's getting paid, it's a big 10-year, $75 million contract. I think it's time to start earning it. As we saw this year, I mean, patience is at an all-time low, especially in the SEC. But, as quickly as Willie Taggart was fired at Florida State, Chad Morris, Matt Luke, Joe Moorhead, man, people want results now, and that was an awfully big contract for Jimbo Fisher, and the results for the first 2 years have been very modest. So I would say, he's another guy who's recruited really well, so they should be able to make a step up, especially as noted, the schedule is not as difficult. So we'll see whether he can deliver.
Pat, right now I got 2 more questions for you, but the first one, what's the most overrated program right now in college football? Is there a program here specifically in this SEC that you look at and go, people are just living off their brand? From the outside looking in, you got to have one, right?
Yeah, I think Texas A&M is that program. That they have been really overrated going into the year. I thought the last couple of years, they had a little bit of a blip with Johnny Manziel, but other than that, have not been a serious player in the SEC West. It's a brutally hard division, but they're just another team in it to this point, and they've got every facility known to man. They've got the biggest budget in America. They've paid as much as anybody ever had for a coach at the time when they brought in Fisher. So, there's a lot of bells and whistles there. There just hasn't been a lot of delivery on the field.
Last question for you, Pat. You talk about the SEC West. We got, media days. I cannot wait. I hope you've already booked your flight. I'm pitching it that it's going to be SEC Media Nights because it should be a primetime event. Which one of these coaches are you buying more stock in to have success by 2023? Mike Leach over at Mississippi State or Lane Kiffin in Oxford?
I'd say Leach. And again, if you've given that long a window, like, people are saying, they're going to win 8, 9, 10 games next year. Well, they are turning over stylistically in a drastic way. So, you're asking basically a run-based spread scheme team to go to, an offense where they want to throw it 70% of the time, maybe 75% of the time. That's not going to be easy. But you give him a few years, he's going to get a quarterback, he's going to get receivers. His style will be different than everybody else's, so it'll be hard to prepare for. And I think Leach has a chance to win 8, 9 games semi-regularly in that division, which is, I think, a lot to ask when you're in the SEC West.
I was going to say, he's one of the best in the business. Sports Illustrated's Pat 40. You can follow him on Twitter at by Pat 40, and really good on his swimming and diving info as well, too. Later, Pat.
I know you'll have me on before the SEC swimming.
Hey, absolutely, man. You'll dial in for us. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Pat 40 joining us right now. Let's get one quick phone call in here. Tupelo, Mississippi. Joseph, thanks for joining Peter Burns in on the Paul Finebaum Show. What's up?
Hi, what's going on, Peter?
What's happening, man?
Man, not too much. Good afternoon. Anyway, I totally disagree with Pat 40 right there about, I want to ask your opinion, but I think that Lane Kiffin's he's younger. He's going to stay at Ole Miss longer, and I think that Patriot Oxford is a way better place to start for anyway, so we're going to have better players and more chances and more opportunities, man. I'm sure you've been to Oxford. I know how it is over there. So, but what do you think? And also, what is your opinion on, should we start Matt Corral next year and let John Rice Plumlee be like a Christian McCaffrey, like we did at Stanford? I don't know. I'm asking that question, and also I want to ask you this. What the hell is wrong with our basketball team?
Thank you for the phone call.
It's ridiculous.
Well, again, the problem is you need Devontae Shuler to start kind of picking it up. So same thing with KJ Buffin. And that was a good first season for Kermit Davis, and you're hiring Kermit Davis for the long term, and I think he's still trying to figure out his roster. But let's go back into the college football questions you have about whether or not it's going to be Leach or Lane Kiffin having more success. I think Lane clearly has more success early, and it's because of Plumlee and Matt Corral. The problem is I don't know if you can keep both of those guys on the roster at the same time. I believe one of them will eventually end up in the transfer portal because, heck, I think both of them are good to go. So it's really going to be probably the most intriguing matchup and quarterback race when it comes down to spring football. And I don't know what Leach's staff is going to look like yet. So I think it's too early to say because it looks like Bob Shoop's going to be leaving and headed up to Michigan. If that's the case, who is going to be your DC down in Starkville? Right now, I do like what Lane is bringing down to Ole Miss as far as his staffs. I lean towards Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss having more success than Leach. I just know we all win come SEC Media Days. More of your phone calls coming up and your tweets as well. Peter Burns in for Paul Finebaum. All right, welcome back to the Paul Finebaum Show. Pat 40 just stopped by. He gave us his way too early top 25. Not a shock. Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama coming in the top 4. Penn State, Oregon, there's no shock there. Oklahoma, great. So we can see them fail once again on a national level. Is there anything more overrated than Oklahoma football right now, even the Big 12? It's a dumpster fire. That's the only one I look at right now, is that it's living on brand recognition instead of every time it shows up. Lately, it feels like the new, I was going to say new Notre Dame, but Kubiak, I caught myself. I didn't say it.
No, they are. They're the new Notre Dame.
No, the new Notre Dame. I don't know. Cincinnati's kind of interesting, being that high up on at number 12. I think is kind of intriguing to me. North Carolina being in the top 20. Was there anything here, gentlemen, when you started looking at that top 25 that really stood out to you as far as, I didn't think I'd see that happening?
I mean, how can you have Memphis ahead of Arizona State? I mean, come on.
Jeez.
What are we doing? What are we talking about here?
I mean, honestly, I'll look at USC. I know they have some talent at quarterback, and they have 3 of them, and they all play like 3 games, whatever, and they got some talent at wide receiver.
Talking about Helinski?
No.
USC?
Southern Cal.
Thank you.
But Oregon at 6. I mean, I know Cristobal's building a program out there, but they're losing a lot.
Yeah, I know Justin, I keep on calling A-Bear, but it's Justin Herbert who's going to be losing. But another big recruiting class for him. And again, the question on some of those, like the Pac-12 is, who else is pushing you right now? And now that really Southern Cal is really going to be the only other team that's going to make a run, I would think, in the Pac-12. Utah could have been that team, but they're losing legitimately like 75% of their starting 22 over to the NFL.
You're not buying Chip Kelly?
No. Again, I think what Chip had done worked in its vacuum back in the day with Oregon. I don't think it works in today's college football landscape, especially in Los Angeles right now. Yeah. I'm actually shocked. I disagree with Pat Forty, and I keep wanting to buy more and more stock with Jimbo Fisher's team. I think that this was a team that really did exactly what we thought it was going to do, Brams and Coobs. They won every game they were supposed to. They lost every game that they were supposed to, and they did it playing like 95% young players, and 95% of those players are going to be back, and the schedule gets a whole lot easier. That's a top 15 team in my mind.
I think so. I'm a little worried. Maybe we're all getting kind of falling into the trap like we did with Michigan this past offseason. We all fell into this delusion that Harbaugh's just going to do it somehow, and we might be thinking that about Jimbo also, but I like A&M overall.
Maybe they're Georgia West.
Yeah, as far as a lunch. What's so funny is I don't know why my first thought was that that's a bad thing, but then again, Georgia's playing for national titles as well, too. Maybe it's a great thing. Welcome, everybody, back into the Paul Finebaum Show. Peter Burns in for Mr. Paul Finebaum in a news day that has been nothing short of crazy. I mean, these are the dreams that we have as a sports radio show host is like, all right, is it going to be dead? What are you going to talk about? Well, Dave Aranda is leaving to take the Baylor head coaching job. 7 different LSU players have declared for early entries into the NFL draft. You had in the news earlier this week, Najee Harris is coming back to Alabama. You had Alabama beating Auburn in a great game and giving the Auburn Hoops team their first loss of the season. And then South Carolina hit a buzzer beater to end up beating Big Blue Nation in Kentucky down in Columbia. So it's a heck of a day to be hosting this show. Let's take more of your phone calls. Greg in Athens, what's up, buddy? Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year, Peter. Thank you for taking my call. You forgot one thing there on your lead-in, and that was a Texas caller who was concerned about our topics of discussion today.
Okay, which was? Yeah.
You know, that he said he wasn't an LSU fan, but he didn't want to hear about basketball right now. And, yeah, so he ought to call his station, but wait, they don't have one.
That is true.
In the Big 12. Right, so he just better buckle up because it's a long year. Anyways, the things that are going on with Louisiana are just the price of victory. You know, anytime you have that much success, as exciting as it is, it always comes at a cost. And, you know, Alabama fans have experienced it quite often, as have some other schools. But with Aranda going, that's a biggie. You know, Burrow's gone, and, of course, Brady. The thing that matters is when you put the replacements in, what is the chemistry going to be like? Because that's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, they've got the playbook, but you don't have the same chemistry that you had this year. So it's going to be really important to make sure that they can gel those replacements in. And I think on the football side or the player side, other than, you know, Burrow leaving, those inside linebackers leaving are going to be critical because that's the heart of your defense. And so it'll be interesting to see what Coach Orgeron does with that team during the off season and what they do moving forward. But they should, you know, LSU fans should not be worried about those things. They should be celebrating the fact that they have won a championship this decade and relish it because, as we know, success can be fleeting. So I hope that they will do so, and I was glad to see Alabama win last night. I didn't expect them to, but I had a cousin that went down to that game, and he said it was packed and it was electric. And, you know, when you were down, you didn't get to go to the LSU-Alabama game, but that was electric when we were down there, and that always makes a difference in ball games, win or lose, is that excitement.
Well, and I think –
thanks for taking – yeah.
Yeah, Greg, thank you for the phone call, man. I appreciate it. And a couple different things to respond to. That's what I love about SEC basketball, and that's why these hires have been great, because if you watched Coleman Coliseum, it was packed right before that game, and I think that played into it. You look at Colonial Life Arena in Columbia, that place had its 16th sellout yesterday, and that made a difference why Frank Martin's squad was able to beat Kentucky. So I think the fact that you're starting to see more people care about hoops is huge for this conference, because then recruits look at it and go, you know what, I was thinking about going to the ACC school. I don't know. You know, the reason why kids took those ACC opportunities or even Big 12 opportunities, because they would show up on recruiting trips, and in Kansas, they were packed. In Raleigh-Durham area, they were packed, right? And you'd go out and you look at, all right, there's a pretty good crowd at SEC. No, there's no reason why SEC hoops shouldn't have rabid fans, and I love to see that, and it made a difference over on Wednesday night. But one of the reasons why, Greg, you got the hotline is because you made a very astute point about the middle linebackers for LSU. And Patrick Queen is gone, and Jacob Phillips is gone as well, too. What did we figure out was the Achilles heel of Alabama's defense last year? It was not necessarily coordinators. It was not having linebackers and that communication. And with Queen and Phillips no longer being a part of LSU squad, I would say, believe it or not, that hurts just as much as losing Dave Aranda over to the next level. Jimbo is in Arkansas. Real quick, Jimbo, what do you got, man?
Hey, Brother Burns. Congratulations there on your success.
Thank you, sir.
LSU Tigers, too. Hey, your boys are headed up to the White House?
That's correct. The LSU football team is in or out to the White House as we speak.
Hey, man, are they going to do better than last year with Clemson and bring out Burger King and Wendy's sandwiches? Because this is the SEC, man. We expect more.
I will be interested to see that, because that's kind of Trump's deal. Is Trump's like, hey, man, you eat healthy all year long. Let's get you a bunch of Big Macs and and chicken nuggets and whatnot. You know what? I would imagine that probably talks to Trump and says, let's get you some boudin, some jambalaya. Like, we need to bring that culture over to the White House. That's all I'm asking for, Jimbo, right?
Yeah, I can understand why they brought out Burger King to Clemson. If it been me, I'd have brought out bologna on white bread with a little Duke's mayonnaise.
Jimbo, they're going to have some fun, man. Again, we'll talk about LSU because, hey, listen, is that going to be the last trip to the White House they have in a long time? Dave Aranda's gone. Joe Brady's gone. As many as 9 different players are leaving. We're going to talk about that coming up more with T. Bob Hebert, who's going to be joining us on the Paul